Hello, Adam Yorston here with Daryl Foreman. Daryl, how are you?
Doing great, Adam. Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to quickly go into the importance of beam angle and cover three dramatically different products that Principal offers to show the variety of products. Now, obviously, Daryl, we have a ton of different options and products at Principal, but today we're going to talk about understanding the beam angle and then why these three different products might fit in three different situations. So I'm going to first just turn it over to you guys. Daryl Foreman, Senior Vice President of National Sales at PLED. Daryl, can you kind of give us a quick understanding of when we use the word beam angle, what do we mean?
Sure. Adam, when we're talking about beam angle, we're talking about the directional pattern of the light that's emitted by the LED chip. And sometimes that light can be uh, diffused and put in a particular pattern based on the optic lens. So if you look at this chart, you'll see four different, very distinct beam patterns. Now, I'm going to try to do this with this balloon. If you look at this balloon and you think of this as the volume of light that's put out by a particular chip, if you look at the high dome, that represents about 120-degree beam angle. And that would be like our, oh, there we go. That would be
Yeah.
like our uh, Patriot XL Deep. And the 120-degree beam angle will throw light a particular distance. With ours, you're talking about 18 inches. So from the chip, throwing light out, it's more like a flashlight, a beam, and it'll throw it about 18 inches. Well, then came optic lenses. And once you put an optic lens on, you start compressing that same volume of light, but you're compressing it much like the lodom, the bat wing, and that's about 160-degree beam angle. Then everybody started coming out with the 170-degree beam angle, spreading the light even more to the sides. It's the same volume of light. It's just not going to throw it the same distance. So when you look at a 120-degree beam angle, throwing it at about 18 inches, much like our Patriot XL Deep, you go to the 160, the low dome, that's a 160-degree beam angle. That's going to throw light about 12 inches. And that would be very similar to our tap out module at 160 degrees. Then you go to the 170. Now you're spreading the light out further to the sides, but you can't throw it as far to the face. And so anybody's product that's got a 170-degree beam angle will only throw light about 8 inches. So that's why when I say my joke, Adam, that you've heard 150,000 times, there's only 3,948 different variables when it comes to lighting signs. One of the most important is beam angle. How far do I need to throw that light? And that is going to be determined by the beam angle coming in. It's also the spacing. The beam angle dictates the spacing of the product also. As you can see, the specialty optic, this would be very similar to our pod series. And the pod has a very narrow beam angle. It's 30 degrees by 15 degrees. And it's a directional light. You're wanting to throw light, say, from the edge of a cabinet, lighting from the perimeter, or you want to throw down lighting on some ACM panels, much like a petroleum gasoline canopy. So that's going to throw light much further. And so that would be the optimum product for that application. If you had a cabinet that was 14 inches deep, a single face cabinet, you could not use a 170 or a 160. It's not going to throw light far enough. So you would have to go to something like a 120-degree beam angle to throw that. If that cabinet was only 12 inches deep, or that channel liner was only 12 inches deep, then you could go to the 160. If it's below 8 inches or below, you could go to a 170. So that's why beam angle is important.
And Daryl, as we talk about it, people get really hung up occasionally on, well, how many lumens, how bright. And really what we're talking about here is, it's great to put a lot of power in there. It's great to really drive that product and produce a ton of lumens. But if you've got the wrong beam angle for the solution, even if you throw a bunch of power at it, you're not you're not going to get what you need. So we take one of these 170-degree beam angles and we put a ton of power behind it. We're still not going to like what we see in a 14-inch deep cabinet.
That's true, Adam. And what's important is not necessarily the lumen output of the chip itself. It's how many lux are you getting at the face? It's what does the face look like? So you want to have enough light at the light source, whatever that is, but the beam angle gets that light source to the face. And so you want to be able to get as much light to the face as possible to give you the illumination at the face that you're looking for.
And evenly and timing, really the
Yes,
spacing of the products too. If you're looking at these pictures here, the idea is that beam angle and that light will overlap prior to hitting the face based on your spacing.
absolutely. And those beam angles have to overlap at a certain distance. If that distance is 3 inches, then you're going to have to move those chips closer together. If it's 5 inches, you can move them a little further apart. And so that space is important. But again, you can see from this depiction here the difference in how far the beam angles will go. That's extremely important.
Being a company with a ton of incredible solutions, let's look at some of these examples. If you don't mind, I'm going to quickly go through it because what we're doing is just trying to briefly talk about a beam angle, the importance of picking the right one. For example, a principle we have, you mentioned the Patriot XL Deep.
Yes.
And we're going to pull that up because what's really unique here is I remember being in the room, Daryl, when we first talked about the Patriot XL Deep. And for so many years, we were talking about spreading light, and we were forgetting about these deep cabinets. And what the XL Deep is, it's basically a flat lens.
It is. Again, it still has a lens on it. It still gives us the protection that we're needing from a lens. But instead of a 170-degree beam angle like the other Patriot products, that flat lens gives us something equivalent to a 120-degree beam angle coming in. Now, since the Patriot is made 100% in the US in San Angelo, Texas, we have complete control over the entire process. And so we can change out the lens. So instead of putting the 170-degree lens on it, we put a 120-degree flat lens on it. Now you can use that in a deeper cabinet. Like I said, anything up to about 18 inches. Now, if it's a double face cabinet and you're using this on one of our sticks, you can light with one row down the center, anything from 24 inches to 36 inches deep.
That's pretty wild. And Daryl, out of all those incredible facts, there's a lot of people out there that are going to tell you, oh, don't believe me, it's not made in America. We challenge you to call your local sales rep and find out a way to get a tour or visit or talk to them about it. The Patriot Series is an American-made LED here in the U.S. If we switch gears, Daryl, so we go from the flat lens. Before I jump all the way over, I want to go to a workhorse product of ours that I think masters the 170 beam angle, and that's our Quick Mod series.
Yeah. The Quick Mod series is awesome. You have the Quick Mod 1, 2, 3, and 4. And each one of those just gives you a different light intensity at the source. You're looking at the Quick Mod 1, excellent from, say, 1.5 inches to 3 inches. The Quick Mod 2, excellent from 3 inches to 5 inches. Quick Mod 3 and 4, perfect from 5 to 8 inches. But again, 8 inches is the max, no matter which one of these you choose.
And that's because of what we're doing at that lens portion of where the light's coming through. We're separating it so much that beyond 8 inches, you're just not touching the right amount of lux at the face.
Correct. And you can, as you said earlier, Adam, you can pile as many modules as you want to in that channel letter or in that single face cabinet. You're still not going to get the light at the face because it just can't throw it that far. The analogy that I like to use is like a campfire. The closer you get to the campfire, the hotter it is, the more intense it is. As you get further and further away, at some point, you don't feel any heat. And it doesn't matter how big you make that or how intense it is, it's only going to throw heat a certain distance. And it's the same way with light. You're only going to throw light a certain distance based on that beam angle.
Excellent. All the spec sheets that we're showing on here are able to be found online, but of course, contacting principal or your local rep, we can send those right over to you. The other thing I wanted to point out, Daryl, you mentioned the 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the quick mod series. We did recently add some minis, 1
Yes.
and 2. So just keep that in mind too as we're talking about the products. Principal does a great job at giving you variety. And we're going to go to the third product here on lens technology that shows real variety, and that's our pod. We also have a pod HO, which is a brighter version. And we also have a downlight assembly product that utilizes similar technology. But as Daryl mentioned before, this is a 30 by 15. So, really what we're looking at, you can see the bottom of the spec sheet, that beam angle picture where that little green area that comes up, that is how that light is being thrown. So in situations like this, you can do what they call perimeter lighting, which is getting the LEDs around the top or bottom or right and left and kind of keeping yourself out of the way of the back of the box and do a great job at throwing light. So another really cool solution. Daryl, you've seen this pod product evolve from pod HO to downlight assembly. Where do you see it most often used?
Well, typically in the downlight assembly where you're trying to focus the light coming straight down, and it'll throw light in that downlight assembly about 20 to 25 feet. Now, again, it's not hitting a face, so you can't really measure the light output throwing it that far. But on a gasoline canopy, what that is doing is throwing light all the way to the ground, creating a halo effect around that gasoline canopy, and that's creating, let's just say, a safety zone. It lights that area up. So at night, as you pull up, it's creating another safety factor by lighting up some dark areas. But it's focusing that light so that it's not spreading out, maybe in some dark sky areas. You're not having to worry about it, light pollution, because it's very focused.
Awesome. Daryl, I want to thank you today for going over beam angles, the importance of beam angle. These 3 products we touched on are just a very, very few portion segment of what we have at Principal. We have a ton of solutions, ton of variety. Even when you go look at that quick mod series of just different power outputs. But I'm Adam Yorston. I proudly represent Principal LED in the Northeast. We've got a great team across the country. Daryl is Vice President of North American Sales. Appreciate you, Daryl, joining us today. There's a nice little map of all of our headshots. That's an appealing group right there, Daryl. They might reach out to us just based on the headshots. Please get in touch with us. Please find out what we have to offer. Ton of great solutions. Daryl, thank you for a brief overview of beam angles.
Thanks, Adam. Take care.
Have a great day.